completing the movement for this turn. See, the Italians shipped their way down, building themselves a city here in Greece again. Africans coming back here. Crete coming back here. Thrace didn't have enough men here because they didn't get any growth this turn. They built some boats, and you see both Italians and Thracians invading northern Asia Minor. Some city building going along here. A lot of fighting. The Assyrians completely hemmed in by the Babylonians. We're going to see this much pretty much converting to Assyrian while they're still kind of oozing around in areas where Crete is because of their military advance, the metalworking. We also see at least one country, Thrace, I think they're the only ones, has the other great military advance, agriculture. Why is agriculture a great military advance? Because it allows you to mass more people. You're allowed one extra person in an area after conflict is resolved if you own the area alone, basically. So conflict rules will still be the same, but here's the thing. Let's say you send 2 people in. Didn't need to be done here. 2 people in where there's only 1 in a 1 space. Well, you kill the enemy and you get to stay there, which is kind of a potent advantage and is particularly important there. But a number of the numbers kind of fall out nicely when you have agriculture because you have an extra piece left over that you would lose otherwise. Combine that with the fact that they have metalworking, and they are pretty damn dominant, actually. They're the last of the powers to pick it up. We'll see what the conflict results in, and the city building and all that. And there's our overall board position. Let's see over here, Egypt slithering deeper and deeper into the Near East. Our invasions over here. Nobody's really hammering Crete. Someone ought to just, you know, smack them because they're so far ahead, and I think, I mean, they're a layer ahead, which is really, if they're not stopped, bad things are going to happen. They're going to win, and there's not a lot that can be done about that, except at this point either stop trading with them, which would be devastating. It wouldn't necessarily, if you stop trading with them for 3 turns, they're not going to make that level, and they're in a lot of trouble, which might be one possibility. Another possibility, of course, is to hammer them physically. That generally doesn't work as well. This is not a game where you can really dominate militarily, usually. Got a kind of interesting thing in terms of cards coming out. Some of the people who went late got nothing. Well, first of all, the 6 batch is no good. The first guy, Thrace over here, there was only 1 card left. Everybody knows if there's only 1 card left, he just drew the disaster. So again, he's holding the disaster there. And nobody else got any bonus for having a 6th city. Nobody's higher than that. But also, some of the people with 6 cities got almost nothing at all because the 5s ran out, the 1s and 2s ran out. They were disastrous. You can see poor Assyria, who was, I believe, one of those 6s, got, they didn't get the 6 card, and they got 2 disasters instead of the 2 and 5 card there. They got the flood and the volcanic eruption. Much worse than the effect of the disasters is not getting a trade card. Now, this is one of the things, again, the expanded deck alleviates. You don't have this problem, but it means you travel faster along the racetrack. Got a civil war in Africa. Looks like it's going to have a slight effect, probably a city. 3, 4, 5, 25. Nah, actually, it's going to be 1 dude, I think. Hopefully they can sustain a 1 dude loss. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, it looks like they can. So they're going to lose a dude to someone. Alright, well, we're going to go on to trade, but I got to go to work instead. So I'll be back later. Okay, and all the purchases are in, and we're seeing another effect of taking those expanded trade cards out. People who can't buy things early don't get enough of the low-priced stuff. The low-priced stuff disappears, and now they need cards, and they can't buy many. They don't have a lot of purchasing power because they've not bought up these low-priced ones that give you bonuses. Like this costs 45, but it gives you a 10-point bonus towards everything else that's got a square on it. The oranges, and then also democracy. So that creates this other element of hindrance, which is kind of interesting because in the with the expanded trade cards, the lower rated guys, the guys who hold off, they're able to pull enough money in each turn because trades are easy to make that they can skim through very easily. Now we're beginning to see people struggling to make their limits, even though they're some of the less civilized nations. What did we see here? Well, Egypt made its limit. They bought up the last cheapie to do it, and they also bought engineering, or maybe they bought cloth making and engineering. I don't remember which, but they bought up the end of the cheapies. So now they're going to go forward. Babylon did not make it though. Babylon had trouble trading, and that's one of the factors. There was all the grain was out, or almost all the grain, but it couldn't consolidate. People were interested in other stuff, and no one got. A lot of people ended up with a pair of grain. Some of them turned it in, but they couldn't work out. They had garbage otherwise that they had no deal with. Assyria continued growing. I don't remember what they bought. I think they got the engineering for fairly cheap. It's kind of painful. They paid a lot for it, but they had to buy something because their stock was getting too big. And that's the thing that I screwed up on before. We see people traded with Crete, but the first trade Crete took was the epidemic, and then they used their purchasing power to buy medicine, which is a good high-valued card. It puts them close to that 1,000 mark, and it'll help them against the epidemic. We'll see how that works in a little bit. Some of the others, Thrace not quite able to go over. In fact, they were another one stuck with the cards, right? They had some crap. They actually had to throw away one of these papyruses. Just unable to make their... They thought they had a deal. They thought they had something cheap they could buy. It got bought before they went. Italy, unable to make the bump, but they picked up, I think, engineering this time and literacy. This is the, wow, I can't make that 7 cards because I can only buy really expensive cards and I don't have lots of bonuses. And likewise, Africa, they're not at the bump yet, but they need 3 cards next turn, and those are going to be expensive cards. There's not a lot available. They picked up medicine to help themselves. Let's, I'll handle the catastrophes that we know, and I think I'll come back at least to talk about the epidemic afterwards, if not during. Oh look, Assyria snuck its way onto a floodplain. That's bad for Babylon. Assyria is going to lose these 2 pieces, but the Babylonians take a follow-up. Now, they don't have engineering, which modifies the effect of flood. That's going to be, what, 10 points chosen against others, and it's no more than 7 against somebody who has engineering. Well, he's got engineering, but he's only losing a couple of pieces. But he's going to take 10, which is a painful hit. That's both his cities. Bang! Epidemic is such a devastating force. Crete only took 11 instead of the 16 you normally take. So they're not as damaged as they could be. They were able to deal out 10 to Assyria, which you can see has no cities anymore, basically. They have 2 in Italy, that's it. So they will go forward. And they dealt out 5 to Africa, who's also free to go forward right now. But you can see Africa getting sparser in their civil war resulted in that. And then they dealt out the remaining 10 to Egypt, the other person able to move forward. Everybody else is stuck behind. So Crete is weakening the players who are kind of keeping up with them. Just in case they fall behind, maybe the others will too, or when we come to here, maybe Crete will end up ahead of them somehow. Although Crete with its 1200 target number probably wants to just race and stay ahead of people if they possibly can. Obviously, you always want to do that, but they have the least sort of incentive from their chart to have a high number, so they often are playing in order to try to just pass through everything as quickly as possible in the hopes of making it. Okay, let's see who goes forward. Well, Africa does. Italy does not. Thrace does not. Crete, of course, does. Assyria does. Babylon does not, and Egypt does. And that's where we are. Only 3 more turns, but we know that's a couple of videos when it comes down to it. Oh no, yeah. I don't think you actually have to make it into here. Maybe I'm mistaken. Yes, you do have to make it here. So that's 4 more turns. That's going to be at least 2 more videos. Ouch. And Thrace's failure to buy that 7th card is really going to hit them. Now, they certainly would have done it if they had the cash. They just didn't have the cash. With their cards, with all the cash they had in their treasury here, they couldn't do it. They thought they could when they made the trades. Who took it away from them? Egypt. Who got the bonus? Egypt. Thrace didn't. They could only support 1 city's taxation. Let's change that. They have coinage. They could support actually 3 cities' taxation. So 2 more cities come back. We'll give them these 2. The rest went to Egypt. Look at this. Wow. That puts Egypt up to 6 cities total, which is right up in sort of the lead position for everyone. After I do the population expansion, oh God, I want to kill that little thing. I hate little dogs. Now, people could have predicted that this happened last turn. I'm not that clever, at least not when I'm playing everyone all at once. But to look at the board and say, who do I want to hit my disasters on? Because to tell you the truth, the fact that Egypt got hit by that epidemic meant they had very few people left on the board. So then they ended up with all these extra cities just because they got hit with that disaster. If they hadn't gotten hit with that disaster, they wouldn't have had 30 guys here. And the next up was 29 for Africa, who got hit with the disaster. And Assyria and Babylon were both at like 28. So a lot of close numbers here. If Egypt hadn't gotten hit quite the way they did, they wouldn't have gotten quite the bonus that they did. And here we're getting sort of a general view. This is the first time we're going to see assaults on cities. Now, Assyria has engineering over there. So it took at least 7 Romans to attack this space. Now, if the Assyrians didn't have 6 pieces here, they wouldn't be able to recover. 2, 4, 5, 6, I believe. I'm sorry, it takes at least 8 Romans. Let's make sure I have 8. 2, 3. Yeah. That's based on the engineering card, which I have somewhere. I don't know where it is. Makes it necessary to use 8 tokens instead of the normal 7 to attack it, but it doesn't improve the defenses in reality. And now we handle a regular attack there. Now, Assyria has metalworking and Italy does not. Let me make sure. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure there was no defensive, no offensive advantage to engineering, which there might well be. And now we go through this normal procedure. And Assyria is wiped out. Now, that was an expensive thing to do for the Italians. But 2, 3, 4, 5. they need their city spaces there and kind of spread out here instead. I'll take care of the rest of the attacks. You can see there's another one here. Thrace is attacking that Egyptian rebel. We've got a lot of pressure being put on the on Crete, and they've pulled back into the western side of Asia Minor. A lot of a mess going on here with Egypt going to build a city there. I think this Assyrian city is going to be failing. I think the Babylonians stopped it. Just a lot of warfare and a lot of conflict going on at this point, because this is such a key point in the game where hurting other people can do you a lot of good. Oh, well, can do them a lot of harm. Started to hand out the cards. Wanted to show the city amounts. Egypt's up to 6. Now, that being the high point is so unlikely with the expanded trade cards and the less disasters that there are in there. But I realized I forgot about a rule completely that could have saved people's bacon and maybe would save Thrace here in this turn. You can see they have a ton of cash on hand, which is the purchase of gold. You can spend 18 treasury markers to get a level 9 card, which often is not a good deal. But if you're afraid you're not going to make your purchase on a particular turn and you've got a lot of treasury, it's a good move. And I've just neglected it. I don't think anybody's going to do it this turn, but last turn, I don't know. You know, I mean, it's definitely a trading away of a lot of value if nobody has those 9 cards. So it's a hard judgment to make. If a number of people can agree, yeah, we'll buy them and then we'll have an additional commodity to trade in, then it's a good deal. But, well, of course, this is a weird game because if you played with something like Clear Claw's rules for 18xx, there's no negotiation specified in this game outside of trade. Supposedly, by that, you'd have to, by his dictum of how he likes to play, you'd have to not negotiate over anything else, because that which is not permitted is assumed to be forbidden. Personally, I think any game, because I come from this background of playing these games where clearly negotiation should be a part of the game, even if it's not explicitly there, I come with a different view to the game than, oh, the rules just tell you what you can do, as opposed to excluding. But I can understand, you know, I mean, the rules don't say you can't take money out of the bank. Okay. The line is different for me, that's all. All right. I'll hand out the rest of the trade cards and we'll see what goes on. Well, 2 disasters showed up, and really bad news for Italy. They showed up on them. Famine, which is going to be very dangerous, and the volcanic eruption or earthquake, which is going to hit one of these two, probably this one. Although this one's easier to rebuild, but it destroys all of this. Yeah. Either way you look at it, it's painful because a volcano actually destroys, so this may actually be the better loss. I don't know. But they've got to take the volcano instead of the earthquake. But the bigger factor, they lose 2 of their trade cards, which means there's no chance that they're going to make the additional card they need. Not at the prices cards go for now, I would assume. All right, onward. Oh, and everybody is agreeing not to trade with Crete this turn. Crete's 1 space ahead. The game is theirs if they can make their 1,000 points. So that's basically the view, because getting 200 here is fairly easy. Again, if you can trade. If you can't trade, if nobody will trade with you, they can starve you out. All right, not a hell of a lot of successful trade went on there. Mainly a lot of people had blown their wad last turn, and then Italy getting hit where they wanted to go over. We do have enough points for Thrace to make their hump, though. And did anyone else buy something? I don't think anyone else bought anything. Thrace bought literacy. I don't. Assyria may have bought something. They've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, they must have bought something. Damned if I know what, though. 6, 7, 8. Looks like they have everything that they had. Yeah, I don't think they bought anything. And they've got a decent size hand, actually. Babylon. Babylon went forward. And they bought architecture. Yeah, that was the other one. Volcano, indeed hit here. Painful. Then the famine. Rome doesn't have pottery. They hit Crete as the leader with 11 points. Now, Crete had both pottery and a grain, so they only took 7. But you can still see they're not in good shape anymore. Down to 4 cities and barely hanging on over here. And then the other 9 hit Assyria, and Assyria is just about wiped out. They're down to 1 city. They lose. If they had lost that city, they'd be going back this turn. And the reason there is, well, they're in the 2nd place. Africa's not going forward this turn. So hit the 2 people in the lead and hit them as hard as you can, and that's exactly what happened. What do we have going forward? Italy did not make their hump. Thrace did. Crete's not in trouble. Well, Babylon made its, and Egypt goes forward, and that's where we sit. Question, can Crete make the 1,000 points? They're at 820 right now. They need 180 points. If nobody trades with them next turn, it's almost assured that they're not going to make it. Which means, at the very least, Assyria pulls up on them. I don't know how many points Assyria's on. I'll count that and come back in a moment. Yeah, Assyria's at 655. And let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8 cards. They're a card behind Crete and 170 points, right? Yeah, 170 points behind them, which is, of course, a big card. Because they've got a lot of cheap stuff in their hand, and Crete managed to get away with being able to buy some decent sized stuff. So I don't think Assyria is necessarily likely to make it in 2 either. Egypt, wow. Egypt is nowhere near, and they're going to have to make it in 2 as well. Same thing with Thrace. I don't know what their point value is. But these guys are all 2 tiers behind the leader. This is what's really interesting without, even with my mistakes and whatever, maybe it made it a little harsher, but without the expanded trade cards, this horse race becomes interesting in a way that it just isn't when you add them. Now, maybe ACIV fixes the imbalances that are built in there. And I'm sure the game has imbalances anyway. It's just that there are powers that I'm convinced have no chance because when you add them. And I think that that causes severe problem. Well, nothing has no chance. Right? Because a better trader, a better negotiator, somebody who's able to get the deals they need and able to get the territory that they need without looking like a threat, etc., can probably skim into a victory, even with, say, a power like Egypt that's very challenging. But it's not going to happen in in a game with people who are really, competent at it. Because I'm not saying I am, because they will be being shot down throughout. All right, guess this goes up.